Hello and welcome to the Flourishing Introvert Talks with me, 𝗞𝗲𝘆 𝗣𝐻𝑆. This is the podcast that celebrates the natural gifts of introverts so that we can flourish in all situations. Episode 320. Will you ever feel ready? I'm starting this episode with a question, not something I usually do, but this question has been a familiar one for me, and I'm curious as to how it resonates with you. How often have you wanted to take positive action, to get unstuck, to take a bold step in a new direction, but something held you back? Never? Occasionally? Regularly? All the blooming time? Be honest now. In my case, it seemed to be all of the time. And even if you're at the occasional end of the spectrum, you'll still find value in this episode. If you're anything like me, you pride yourself on knowing who you are and what makes you tick. You're aware of your needs and have improved your boundary management to protect those needs. You've even dared to dream of the future you want to make for yourself. And then that little niggle appears somewhere in the back of your mind, quietly at first, but the more you try to reason with the niggle or ignore it, the louder and more persistent it gets. So you tell yourself to wait, to be patient. You tell yourself you're obviously not quite ready, or you would have taken action. Another day passes, another week, another month, and then another year. And somehow you're still not quite ready. This holding pattern is one I know so well, and whilst I'm not proud of it, I'm not ashamed to share it with you either. Sharing is actually an important part of my learning journey. In my case, I've spent copious amounts of time trying to understand why I don't trust my gut or intuition, only to find someone else has now claimed that space I saw myself in and is joyfully making it their own. Why I have notebooks full of great ideas that never make it off the page. Why there always seems to be a missing piece of the jigsaw that makes the picture incomplete and therefore incomprehensible. So when the realization eventually came crashing in, I was in part delighted, but also I wasn't prepared for the reality of it. My penchant for reflection and my perfectionist tendencies were feeding my indecision and costing me momentum. No, that's not the full picture. They were costing me actually getting started. Oof! That hit hard. Ringing any bells? I never said growth was easy or comfortable. It gives a whole new meaning to growing pains, doesn't it? And I had one other 𝗞𝗲𝘆 moment, a blinding flash of the blooming obvious. And this one hit even harder. By not taking action because I convinced myself I didn't feel ready, I couldn't really fail or be judged as a failure. Big fat ouch on that one. Want to know the question I finally got brave enough to ask myself? Was I delaying or avoiding readiness to protect my ego? What Edward E. Jones calls self-handicapping. So I decided it was time to take a different approach. I've said for some time that life is one big experiment, and I had a hunch that this was part of my problem. If it's one big experiment, the stakes are high and it feels like there's only one chance to get it right or make a success of it. So my reframe now is something that I've talked about once or twice before, but clearly failed to follow through on. I'm now choosing to see life as a series of small experiments, meaning the consequences are naturally less catastrophic and the gains much more likely to be generative. Now that feels a whole lot better almost instantly. Why hold myself back for one massive outcome when I could be experiencing regular, albeit smaller, wins? So how could I underpin this new reframe so I didn't revert back to my old ways of thinking? I always work with my clients on relapse prevention or preparing for those times when the old ways are easier or more convenient just because they're more familiar. So what's good for the goose is good for the gander. What might throw me off this small experiment path? I knew a few things and a few people immediately and could name the things as failure, pace, self-doubt, reputational risk and lack of courage. Want to know the irony? All of those things were also the things that held me back in the one big experiment world too, so I knew I was onto something. As a recovering perfectionist, I know that ridiculously high standards are unattainable despite how much I tried to kid myself. And I finally unmoored the notion of my perfection from my credibility. The idea of being flawless with all that I am and all that I do, and that mistakes or failure serve only to reinforce my not enoughness, is sheer bunkum. If this is resonating with you, and you are also a perfectionist in recovery or wanting to be, take this opportunity to be kinder to yourself. This lays the foundation for flipping any self-limiting beliefs that are holding you back, which then enables you to become braver. I don't know anyone who is actually perfect, and don't really trust those who try to tell me they are. I much prefer the idea of being fully human, of being fallible, of being work in progress. So I think it's action that contributes to credibility. Action, learning, and situational humility. On top of that, surely the nature of any kind of experiment is that it involves risk and failure. In a business and life setting, experimentation is about having a clearly defined goal, testing a hypothesis, gathering data from taking action, and drawing conclusions. When you break it all down like that, it feels much more doable. And according to the London Business School, experimentalists require the following mindsets, attitudes, and values: humility, curiosity, dialogue, responsibility, and courage. These are needed for a culture of experimentation to thrive. Well, I thrive or flourish when surrounded by and embodying those, so bring it on. I already have purposefully curious and quietly gutsy as two of my business principles born of my personal values. So I'm clearly part experimentalist already. And now I'm excited to demonstrate those other qualities too. So I firmly believe that this mindset shift, this reframe, will make taking action despite not feeling ready really achievable. Because honestly, is anyone ever really ready? And here's what else I'm standing for: sharing more of my experimentation with you all. That will require me to be vulnerable, and now I feel safe enough to do that with you. Now that I don't have to present a perfect solution or set unachievably high standards or pretend that this has always been and will always be easy, I can be a more useful guide. I will still work towards mastery, but that in itself is not the same as perfection. Mastery is a known component of self-motivation and key for me to a fulfilled life. Mastery is about the continuous improvement journey, about learning and getting better, not getting it right. Mistakes or failure provide data that enable me to continue on that journey with excitement rather than shame. So my first commitment, shared openly with you here, is to declare myself ready to experiment, ready to try things out without being attached to the outcome. That's a responsibility I'm willing and able to take on, and I invite you to do the same. After all, growing pains are but a clear signal that we are able to make progress even without being ready. There are no guarantees either way, so honestly, what do we have to lose? If you enjoyed this episode as much as I did, then please subscribe, rate us and leave a comment, because we know that helps other people find the podcast. And if other people find us, other introverts can flourish.
You are listening to an Intentional Media Production podcast.